Okay, just to start us off, I realize that all of us are kind of coming from different places. Some of you may have grown up reading comics, may love comics. You go every Wednesday to the comic book store to pick up the latest issues of whatever. Some of you may just have a cursory understanding of the medium. Maybe you've picked up a few graphic novels here and there at Barnes & Noble or Borders. Some of you may be coming to this workshop from a completely different experience. Maybe you are more familiar with theater, maybe you're more familiar with novels or film. And so really what I'm going to attempt to do in the next 30 minutes is get us all on the same page. Talk to you a little bit about the medium itself, about comics, and how we use this combination of words and pictures to communicate all in a sequence the type of experiences that we want to with this art form. I want us to sort of break down some of the stereotypes and look at comics as it is, which is an art form with limitless potential to convey stories and to communicate ideas and beauty and truth and lies and all the things that make for good storytelling. The other thing that we're going to do is just go very simply through how comic books writers format their scripts. You will find that there is no single authorized script format, but just simply what works in the correspondence between the writer and the artist. I'll go through all of that as well. But to start off, I want to talk a little bit about comics as a medium. There is a certain power in the way that we translate information. Film does certain things very well. It doesn't do other things well. Stage, there's a certain power to a stage play very well done. Likewise with a novel, when it's well written, it creates a seamless experience of reading of that story. And comics specialize in certain areas. There are things that comics do very, very well, and then there are things that comics struggle with. And I think one of the ways to look at this medium is to also have an understanding of how other mediums work. When we look at a novel, one of the powers of the written word is that the reader controls the pace of the experience. Whereas in stage or film, we can't really shout out during the theater, hey, can you rewind that about 5 minutes? I want to watch that scene again, or can you slow it down for me? Oftentimes, the reader is a passive recipient of the information, whereas with a novel, we read at our own pace. Likewise with a comic book, we move from panel to panel at the speed that is comfortable for us, oftentimes pausing at certain panels that may be particularly compelling, taking time to look at something, flipping back to look at previous things, and then kind of moving ahead with the story. It does run in a sequential order, one panel after the other, but we control that pace. Unlike the novel, though, it is a purely visual medium. In fact, I would like to think of comics as one of the most pure visual mediums. Now, I know people in stage and film might disagree with me there, but I think that there's something to be said that the entire experience is taken in through the eyes. Whereas with stage, you are getting the auditory experience, you are getting the visual experience. Same with film. With comics, the only sense that we really have to receive that medium is through the eyes. And so everything we communicate has to be visual. Even the sounds become visually represented through the text and the dialogue that we use. When we look at the medium, it's important to understand the benefits are, first of all, the visual nature of it does create an experience where the author of the work is able to translate their vision to you on a one-to-one ratio. Whereas with a novel, you can always sit down with a book and say, I'm imagining these characters look this way, or I kind of look down this way. We've all had that experience where we watch a movie based off of a book, and the character doesn't always look the way that we imagined them in our head. With the comic, it's already presenting that image to us. I think that particularly, and I'm speaking sort of out of my area of expertise, but I think one of the beautiful things about stage plays are the endless levels of interpretation and variation. Whereas if I go to see a particular play, on a given night with a given company and group of people, I'm getting a different experience depending on what those people contribute to it. Whereas with comics, we get a seamless experience of that artist. We very rarely have reinterpretations of earlier works, and so that work is something that we come back to. When we look at it, the other thing that we see is and I know from film they can appreciate this. The budget of a comic book is minimal. It's fractional compared to that of even the smallest budget film. Depending on whether or not you choose to pay artists, which I'm sure artists would appreciate, but you can find ways to manipulate them. But for the most part, the budget and the printing is so small, and on the visual information that we represent, special effects are only in the hands of the artists themselves, and so to draw several cities blowing up costs us nothing. Whereas with a filmmaker to create something like that would be rather expensive. And then of course in a stage play, you might even have to go on almost an abstract or symbolic level to create those kind of effects.